It's been 4 years since Michael Myers vanished without a trace.
Good morning, everyone. Or no, maybe good evening. I might record this like the evening we record this. I might drop it.
Hey, someone just started taking a shower in the room next to me, it sounds like.
I'm sure it's fine.
You're going to hear some noise.
Okay,
I apologize.
Well, I have birds chirping outside my window.
Yeah, but that's pleasant. Whereas from where I'm at, it's just...
There's no leading up to this. Halloween Ends, the final entry in the Halloween franchise.
For at least 3 years.
I was going to say, yes, for at least 3 years. The final entry with Laurie Strode, or Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode. Probably not the last one with Laurie Strode. The last one we'll ever do on the retrospective, probably.
I don't know about that.
I mean, you never know. I mean, maybe it's just like, we see the writing on the walls now with certain franchises, but we'll get to all of that. I'm your host, Diego Crespo. With me today is my co-host, Matt Garingo.
Hi, that's me.
Yeah, we've been doing the Halloween retrospectives for 4 years.
Yes. And a big question. Why?
The first Halloween is fantastic, and you helped me see that.
No, here's the thing. Like the nature of evil...
Mm-hmm.
There is no true answer.
Oh, okay. That's pretty good.
Sure.
All right.
I maybe just pulled it out of my ass because I was uncomfortable with the silence.
Okay.
Which I might be taking a few pages out of David Gordon Green's book right here.
Oh, yeah. Maybe. Let's just get into it. Halloween Ends, 2022, directed by David Gordon Green, co-written by Danny McBride and David.
This one had like 4 writers:
Chris Bernier and Paul Brad Logan. I don't know anything these guys have done. It looks like this is their sole credit. Oh no, Chris Bernier has something called The Tree in his back pocket.
Where did they come from? Why are they here?
I don't know.
What was David Gordon Green, Danny McBride being like?
They saw the slack. Here. You know what it is? They saw the response to Halloween Kills, which was mostly negative, or at least very mixed. I think it's a very mixed film, right? Mm-hmm. And they were like, maybe we need a little like assistance there, or maybe that's not what David Gordon Green and Danny McBride thought, but I bet it's what Jason Blum thought, because you're coming off 2018, which is like pretty big success financially and critically. Mm-hmm. And then Halloween Kills comes out, and everyone's like, "What?"
But here's the thing: like, there's such a short turnaround between Ends and Kills. I just wouldn't think
you could do a punch up in like a month.
I guess, but I don't know if you could really do enough. Nor did I feel like there was enough. But it says a lot that they looked at Halloween Kills and went, what the problem here is? There wasn't enough writing.
There wasn't enough subtext?
There wasn't enough. No, there just wasn't enough like actual dialogue of people talking and saying exactly what's happening on the screen.
All right.
But it also doesn't feel like, I gotta say, like, this does not feel like David Gordon Green, like, course correcting, honestly.
No.
Like, maybe, like, here or there are moments, but it feels like, but also does not feel like the logical extension of Kills.
The original ending that I brought up on the Kills episode as well was it was going to be Laurie walking down the hospital hallway, clenching the knife in her hand, right? Mm-hmm. And then they scrapped that, and I see why now, because vengeance is not the direction Laurie takes again.
Yeah,
she has settled into a new life. She has let go of the shape. And trying to process, or trying to defeat the evil. Rather, she's trying to process it.
She's essentially overcompensating for being a crazy person for years.
Yes, and now trying to be a good mother to the daughter she's lost and to the grandchild she still has. I need to bring up some stuff about the movie before we start talking about our opinions on it.
Here's something we should both do that I think would be fun. All right, I want you to name 5 films that you think this movie is similar to.
Okay, so this is actually you do that because I have a list like a dozen that I saw referenced before I saw the movie from people that just watched the movie.
I want you to do 5 that are from your head, and then I'll try and see what I can get that's left.
Okay.
So I just want to see if you have the same choices as me, or
okay,
if they're
and then I'll bring up what I saw because so that I have to be clear. Some of the ones that I saw referenced popped into my head because they were there, but I see them in the film. Okay.
All right. Try to be the ones that you would like. I would have gotten this without being pointed towards it.
All right. Christine.
Mm-hmm.
Fallen Angels. Lost Highway. Halloween 3. Actually, these are the two that not Halloween 3. I'll say Halloween 3 right now, but I'm gonna do 6 then. Okay. Halloween 4 and Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
Okay.
So I know I just cheated because 3 of those are from this franchise, but they definitely popped into my head for very pointed reasons.
Yes. But you did not mention one that I would have put on there, which is Halloween 5. I think there's some Halloween 5 in this movie.
Okay.
I think there's some Jaws 2 in this movie. Oh, God, I just had a bunch, and then I just immediately forgot them. Okay. I was ready to go. But there's definitely some Hammer Hammer Dracula films are in here.
Oh my God, there's a set design that's just like straight up classic monster movie shit.
Yes, it goes like full monster movie at a certain point. Not a movie, but I definitely got the Columbine Massacre vibes from this. And then definite Scream vibes. I think there's some Scream here too. Particularly the first one.
I can see that. I didn't think about that one, but I could see how you got that.
So those are my 5.
Okay. Well, films I saw referenced in response to the people's first viewing of the film were Christine. That's one I think definitely.
Well, that one is.
Saw.
There's a guy in this movie named Cunningham. Like it is overt. It is an overt reference to Christine.
Another John Carpenter film, The Fog. Dennis Etchison's rejected Halloween 4 screenplay that John Carpenter first championed.
Yes, that is 100% here as well.
And then I'm going to shout this guy out because I like him, and he's a good writer and one of the more popular Letterboxd users. Will at Silent Dawn LB. Films I thought of during Halloween Ends. Spider-Man. Halloween 5. So your point.
Hey, yeah.
Twilight New Moon. The Lost Boys.
Yeah.
And then I also saw Fallen Angels and Lost Highway referenced, but that one is like, to me, those were very blatant references.
Yeah, and there are shots like directly lifted from those movies.
Yeah, I kind of cackled when I saw the Lost Highway angle over the street. I was like, yes.
The Lost Highway one kind of was like, wow.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Should we just say it?
All right. You go first.
All right. I also have to preface that after Halloween Kills, which I called my biggest disappointment of the year thus far in 2022 when I had seen it, that didn't really change the rest of the year. I think that was a really strong year for movies. If a franchise sequel, the 11th franchise entry, disappoints me, I'll live, Yeah. But I wasn't really looking forward to Halloween Ends after a while. I was like, I'm kind of interested in how it all wraps up. What's the final showdown going to be like? And then that fizzled away as the months started going. And then I saw clips from trailers, not even full trailers. I never saw a full trailer to this movie because I was just like, I'm not going to seek out any information. I'm going to watch it for the podcast with Matt, and that's going to be it.
There's this annoying thing Film Twitter's been doing lately where they will take publicity photos for a movie and then put, especially reboots, right? And they'll put it next to the original, a shot from the original film that the publicity photo is trying to replicate, right?
Yeah.
And then being like, we used to know how to make movies. And it's like, that's not in the movie. That's for entertainment.
Oh,
weekly,
God. Oh, yeah.
right?
You know what? Let me complain about that for a second, too. Because all these fucking people, I know exactly what you're talking about. There's the digital makes it look like shit. And it's like, no. There's a bunch of reasons why some movies look like shit right now, but it's not that. If you made a movie before, or at least if you're knowledgeable
Yeah.
You will know that, and I've seen some professional filmmakers come out and say stupid shit like that too. So if you're ever worried about whether or not you know enough to make a movie, you do. Doesn't mean it's going to be good, but you're going to know more than some people that have actually made them. Now, I saw people comparing specifically the image of Michael in the shadows behind Laurie Strode in the original Halloween. I think that's what you're referencing, right?
That's among other things. I've seen a lot of stuff like it lately.
That was the big one that came out this week right before Ends came out. And then they compared it to like Michael and Laurie in the kitchen in this movie's screen cap. And like they raised like the shadows and the gamma and the saturation. They're like, look how shitty it looks. I'm like, it looks like shit in both because you fucked up the intended quality of the image, first of all. And like second of all, for all the movies nowadays that look like kind of shit at night, I don't think the Halloween trilogy, the David Gordon Green ones, look bad at all. They look pretty good.
They look pretty good compared to a lot of horror movies these days.
Yeah, and like, you know what the big thing is too? Like the skin tones aren't the same as like the concrete wall behind them.
Yeah.
Even at night, because then at night it makes them look like shit. You know? Like I think I referenced during the Prey podcast that like when I saw it on the big screen, I was like, wow, the night stuff looks really good. And then I saw it on streaming and I was like, oh, this looks like weird now. This looks like kind of murky.
Which might explain my response to Prey, honestly.
Yeah, and like...
And it might explain the response the new Hellraiser is currently getting.
Yeah, have you seen it?
No, I have not.
I haven't either. But I haven't dove into the Hellraiser franchise fully, so...
I've seen like a few. I've seen most of them, but like there's a few where it's just like I think there's a few where Pinhead is like on the poster and then is in it for like 2 minutes.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
because I know the Scott Derrickson one was like he had this idea for like a haunted detective movie, and they're like, "Well, we can't fund that, but we the Weinsteins have access to the Hellraiser franchise. Just do one of those."
I believe the Scott Derrickson one is the one that ends with like a double dream fake out. If I remember correctly.
I think you're right. I think I've seen that one.
Which might be like one of the worst endings to any movie I've ever seen.
Well, you know.
Yeah. Which I'm not even throwing that at the feet of Scott Derrickson. I believe that was produced by the Weinstein Company.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Or maybe it was Miramax, because I think Miramax was also in the Halloween game at the time.
Yeah. So, but let me wheel back a little bit. So, I'm not looking forward to Halloween Ends. I see the critical discourse starting, and I'm like, oh, okay, another miss, because like it's the initial reviews are very negative, where people are like, oh shit, like they fucked it up, and then something starts happening. I start seeing those references we brought up, the movies people were bringing up in response to the film, and like Chelsea from the Dead Meat YouTube channel that I really like, and I've talked up on this show before, was like the one thing that they said. They haven't shared their opinion on the movie yet. I'm sure they're gonna do a podcast on there or something like that for the kill count. She said, "It is deeply weird, and that's what you need to know going into it." And I was like, okay, that was the first inkling of like something's different here. And then I see people saying like, "Oh, it takes huge swings. It is very weird." And then other people like, "Oh, they fucked it up again." And I'm like, these are very different. I didn't get this from Kills. I got like generic slasher, yada yada yada, right? And the responses became so varied and wildly disparate that I was like, "Is there something here? Did he make like an interesting movie? Because I don't think Kills is that interesting outside of our conversation on it. I can't really explain away that movie. Halloween Ends, I think, is a deeply, deeply strange, bizarre concoction of a film. I think Halloween Kills is a physical attempt to kind of combine every slasher like kill in the franchise into one movie, right? Like it's the physical side of Michael Myers.
That's the most just like we're just gonna go full Michael Myers insanity.
Yeah,
like, that's that movie. What makes that movie weird is that it's like juxtaposed with the like how we demonize the mentally ill, which is like has no place in that movie.
Yeah,
frankly.
And the big problem with Michael Myers as a character is in the original film he's a metaphysical presence. He's elemental. He's darkness. But as a slasher franchise, he needs to kill a fuck ton of people.
Yeah.
And so like the physical and the metaphysical come into conflict very often. Halloween Ends makes up for the Halloween Kills physicality by going full metatextual. Mm-hmm. And I think I loved it.
All right, yeah, right on.
Well, what did you think?
Well, I avoided basically most trailers. The only thing I saw was like the occasional clips of just like they were really hyping up how this is going to be the last showdown between Laurie and Michael Myers.
That's so fucking funny.
It's really funny to think about when you think about how much totality that is in the movie. But I saw a lot of that, but I was like, okay, whatever. And there was a part of me that when I was hearing like, because I heard the early buzz where I was like, it's different. Like I was hearing that, so I'm like, okay, is the whole like. And I'm like, I was getting the vibe from the trailers of it being like a much more scaled back movie, you know? Which part of me just assumed that was COVID, like that might have affected things a little bit.
Hey, but hey, Kills was a COVID shoot too. That's a fucking stacked movie.
That's kind of insane now that you mention it. But yeah, I was kind of like, okay, maybe like maybe they're like, okay, we went too far with Kills. Maybe we're reeling it back. Maybe this movie is just gonna be like Jamie Lee Curtis and Michael Myers like facing off, you know? Mm-hmm. Like that's going to be the whole fucking movie. Well, then I kind of had the similar thing with you where I didn't hear the negative buzz, honestly. I was kind of tuning in because I think I am one of the bigger defenders of Halloween Kills, which is like, I'm not saying it's like a great movie, you know? Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that. But I kind of just enjoy it, especially when it's just the Michael Myers stuff. I guess that's the problem is that, like, I think the stuff around Michael Myers doesn't work as much as just Michael Myers fucking people up, you know?
Yeah.
And I
would not deny any of that.
I rewatched Halloween, the 2018 one, and I think that movie fucking holds up, if I'm being honest.
Me too.
Like, it really... There's a couple moments that kind of irk you, but like not enough to sink the ship. And in the grand scheme of the Halloween franchise, it just by default becomes one of the better movies. But also, I kind of felt like after seeing Kills, I might have mentioned this on the Kills episode. Kills felt like an attempt to remake Halloween 2. You know, like down to even Michael Myers' mask changes between the 2018 Halloween and Halloween Kills, where his like in Halloween 2018 they make a very clear point of it just being like the black hollow eyes like you remember from the original, right? Where in 2 you could see his eyes, and in Kills you can see his eyes a lot more, you know?
Yeah.
So that's just how that was what I was going into. I was going into Ends being like, this might be just for me, but I'm going to enjoy it. And then I was seeing the posts that were like, what is this? Like, that's like, people are throwing out some wild takes on the movie. So I'm like, okay, I guess that's what this is going to be. It's going to be one of those. I sit down. There is a grandmother with kids in the theater. Don't know what they were doing there, but hey, they wrote it out. Some teenagers were there, and they were being very funny. They were making a lot of funny comments, let me tell you.
Are you being sarcastic?
They were so funny.
Yeah, I thought so.
To the point where 5 minutes into the movie, someone turned around and said, "Shut up," to the kids.
Oh, that kind of funny.
Yeah, and guess what? They did. So.
Oh, okay. Good job.
So I'm sitting there watching the movie. There's also a woman behind me, and there's kind of a telephone game going on because the Phillies are playing. And she was updating everyone on the Phillies score.
Oh, what a nice lady.
So that was happening while the movie was playing. So I'm sitting there, and I'm watching this movie play out, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, the vibes in this theater are not good. And I'm like, there's long stretches of this movie where you're like, this might as well not be a Halloween movie, you know? Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say how I felt about it, but there's long stretches of the movie like that. It's like no one paid to see this, right?
Yeah.
No one paid to see this, so I'm like, man, I don't know how this is going to play. And I was ready to make my snarky comments on Twitter that don't totally give away the game of how I felt. I had it already, which my two takes were like, I was just going to write, could have been one movie. And then my other one was just the, like, take of all three of these movies could benefit from cutting about 50% of the dialogue, which is very similar to the film Rise of Skywalker, which could benefit by cutting 150% of its dialogue. Which were going to be the two joke tweets I made.
And you should still make those.
I should, but I made them here, so it's fine. But then the movie ends. Don't Fear the Reaper starts playing, which I did not expect.
Yeah.
Which plays in the original Halloween, for those who don't know. You can hear it on the radio. And then everyone clapped. And, like, in a way, in a spontaneous way that it was not like one person started and then everyone, and it wasn't like one of those things where like a person claps and then everyone goes like, oh, I guess we're clapping now. Like, it was like it started in multiple spots simultaneously and then everyone was clapping. And I was like, what?
When you brought that up, I didn't believe you.
Yeah,
because why the fuck would what?
I don't even. And it wasn't like I went to like opening night, you know, like where all the true Halloween heads are in the audience. Like, it was a mishmash of just like the average Americans, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There was one guy with a Halloween T-shirt. That was it in this theater. And it was a midday showing on a Saturday. Like, it wasn't... Most people are at the Philly game, watching the Philly game. Like, that's what we're doing. That's why we're at this screening, because all the other ones were sold out or were too late in the day. So we went to the one during the Phillies game. And they all clapped. And I was like, I need to think about this. And then it kind of shook me for a few hours. So, yeah, and I guess the take I have on Halloween Ends is it is gonna... I know it is going to be defended the way Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is defended. Like, it's guaranteed at this point. I am not sure if I like it as much as I admire it right now.
Okay.
I'm going to have to let it sit. And I'm not, like, coming here being like, fuck this, or, like, you know, like, I'm kind of, like, annoyed with people about Halloween 2, the Rob Zombie Halloween 2.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, this one I'm kind of like, I have to think about this one a little while longer. And I also think, at the end of the day, even the best defense can't get around that it is a very confused movie that is taking some wild swings in multiple directions and doesn't seem to have its finger on the pulse a lot of the time. But ultimately, that confusion is better than, like, if it had just been generic, Michael Myers is back to kill Laurie Strode, you know? Which is what most of these sequels are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the most consistent defense I've seen, and one that I think I'd agree with, too, is that, like, look, it's a 12th Halloween movie. You got Michael fucking up the town, like, at least half a dozen times, right? It's fine to take a fucking weird swing like this.
Yeah. And these are the directions... This thing is, what I am very happy about, whether or not you like the Gordon Green ones, which they will just be known as the Gordon Green trilogy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Unless they rope him in for a fourth one, but I think he's in Exorcist Land now.
Oh, yeah.
I think it is going to set the franchise in a better direction than, you know, the subsequent films post the original Halloween were, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think those movies have this big obstacle of that they kind of writes them in this corner where they all have to be about the Strode family and their relationship to Michael Myers, you know?
Yeah.
Which just doesn't work. You know, it never really did. Did it ever work?
No.
It really doesn't. And so I'm glad that we're now on this path for whenever we do Halloween Ends again, like, in a few years. But yeah, it's I look forward to other people making very confused films in the Halloween franchise. These are the kind of the films I wish had been getting made in the 80s, you know?
I think this is also
much love to Danielle Harris as Jamie Lloyd, who's like great in those sequels, but
yeah, she's fantastic.
There's plot problems in all of those movies.
Yeah, so. Yeah. I think she even gives better performance than the Rob Zombie ones, and I only like the second one. But like on that note too, Halloween Kills feels like a prestige version of those worst sequels to me.
Yeah,
and Halloween Ends feels like the fucking wild swing of Halloween 3 again to me. Not as successful.
Not as successful, but also I will say it feels like this is David Gordon Green making the sequel to Halloween 4 he always wanted to see. That's why I said Halloween 5, where like Jamie Lloyd and Michael Myers had that connection, you know?
Yeah.
And like they don't do fucking anything with it in Halloween 5. Like they never, like she just has psychic visions, remember?
Yeah.
And she's a mute. It's so dumb.
It's yeah.
Whereas this feels like, okay, this is where that maybe could have gone. And I find that very interesting. I wonder if they'll bring Danielle Harris back in some capacity in the future.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping for appearances by her, the actress who played Laurie Strode from the Rob Zombie one. And this was not me like mandating anything. I'm not one of those fans or anything like that. But I was just like, it would have been nice.
I haven't been paying attention, but was she? I could have sworn I saw Danielle Harris in the crowd at the end of the movie.
Oh, really? Oh, maybe.
I could have sworn, but like, I don't know for sure. Like,
yeah, well, Danielle Harris and
she was at the premiere, right?
Yeah, she was at the premiere with the actress who played Laurie Strode in the Rob Zombie ones.
Okay.
So, I thought that was nice.
Yeah.
Because she was vocal about, they're having Laurie have another daughter. Now Laurie's going to be on screen with her daughter, and it's not her. Mm-hmm. Like, I could see why that would rub people the wrong way.
Yeah, I get it, and I mean, she's unfortunately Danielle Harris has like both been treated very well and very poorly by the Halloween franchise.
Yeah.
With famously how she was treated around the time of Halloween 6.
Mm-hmm.
And like, bring her back and just make her like an original character. I guess I wouldn't mind that if that's where they're gonna go after this. Where who knows where they're fucking going now? But like, here's one thing I will say though that's kind of really disappointing. That guy, I can't remember the actor's name, but the guy who is the sheriff with the cowboy hat, who has like one line in this movie.
I know.
And I think he just had the misfortune of playing the primary cop character right at a time when this country suddenly remembered we don't like cops. Mm-hmm. So like they're not going to do stuff. But the other problem with cutting cops out of these movies is that the Halloween franchise has this proud tradition of bumbling trombone police. Of just cops that are terrible at their jobs getting picked off by Michael Myers. He takes out a whole police station at the end of 5.
Oh, yeah. No, that's the Man in Black. Remember that fucking shit?
Yeah, but he probably walked in there and then said, Michael, take care of this. Because Michael's like cowering in a corner after getting beaten in the head by fucking Donald Pleasance.
Yeah.
Also, people were talking up like Loomis before this, and like I was like, is like CGI fucking Donald Pleasance just gonna come out of the grave in this fucking thing? Like that's what I was like. That's where my brain was going. I did not expect a full-on remake of Christine though.
Yeah.
Also, one that I'm not sure entirely understands Christine, if I'm being honest. I don't know if but it's part of like David Gordon Green feeling the need to like overcompensate with like dialogue that I feel like could be cut,
Mm-hmm.
To like over-explain like this is about the nature of evil, whereas John Carpenter just goes like it's a car, it's evil, like which is very important. Like, so have you read the book Christine?
No, I've not.
So there's a very key difference between the book and the movie.
I do know this, but please tell it for people that don't.
So in the book, it is the owner of the car, the former owner of the car who has died, who's trying to possess Arnie Cunningham in the book. And that's what's really going on. In the Carpenter movie, the car is just evil. And part of it, they said, like, I think Carpenter said, well, American Werewolf just came out, and we kind of wanted to avoid that, because, like, the guy kind of comes back as, like, an undead specter, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it speaks way more to Carpenter's philosophy, that there are sometimes just evil things out there. And I'm not sure if Halloween Ends gets it. But also, John Carpenter is smartly doesn't try to explain evil in any way, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He just lets it happen. And all three of the Gordon Green movies could benefit from just letting things happen. But at the same time, it's shocking that he was allowed to get away with what he gets away with in Halloween Ends. So I guess the dialogue heaviness of it was like the Olive Branch 2, a company like Blumhouse, you know? Who,
yeah.
like, wants these movies to be 4-quadrant hits. And which they're not going to be if you get that esoteric about it.
Mm-hmm. I think the 2018 Halloween does a really good job of balancing that, because in that movie, everyone's constantly asking what Michael is thinking. Say something. They're telling him to say something, and no one asks Laura. Like, it's a very good, like, juxtaposition between how people
but that movie also
consume true crime and shit like that.
But that movie also has the one moment in it where the doctor puts the mask on.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, and it's like, I let him out, you know? And that's like the one moment that, like, the average audiences were like, I don't know about that. Like, and to me, that's, like, kind of the thing, but also, like, David Gordon Green, again, he kind of he overplays his hand sometimes. And I think that's just the nature of the beast in making blockbuster movies these days.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately. Like, that's, if people want to talk about, like, the declining quality of films or whatever, to me, I don't give a fuck about any of that, because, like, great horror movies are made by truly incompetent filmmakers. And, yeah.
I don't know about that.
There are great horror movies that were made by people who had no idea what they were doing. It happens sometimes. Why do you think Italian horror movies are so good?
No, it does happen. I'm just saying, I don't know if I would, like, submit to that theory all the time.
I'm not saying all. Like, clearly, I'm talking about John Carpenter, too, who's, like, clearly a master of the camera. Like, he knows what he's doing. He knows how to give a simple story a lot more juice than it probably deserved.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just saying that, like, great horror movies tend to come from that, and they don't have mainstream appeal, you know?
Yeah.
I think people forget that, like, horror has gone kind of mainstream in a way, and, like, now, I'm so fascinated with react culture on YouTube, because, like, they've run out of all the good horror movies to watch. So, like, now they're just watching, like, anything, and it's like, really? You're gonna watch Halloween 3? Like, that's not a movie you can kind of sit down and just, like, react to. Like, and but I think that studios really fear the idea that audiences are going to walk out confused in any way, and then audiences are to blame as well in our stupid CinemaSins culture, you know, of just like I think I told you this, where I saw Ad Astra in theaters, right?
Yeah,
and I walked out of that movie and I didn't really know how I felt about it the first time I saw it. I was kind of like, I don't know about that. Like, that was kind of where I was at initially. And I saw it with a friend, and I was ready to have a conversation with them about it to kind of, like, figure out where I landed on the thing. And they could not stop talking about how improbable they thought the chase scene was on the moon. When they get, like, chased, remember that one sequence?
Yeah.
Like, they were, like, that just didn't, like, what is that? Like, why was that in the movie? That was so stupid. And I'm like, we just saw, like, a 2.5-hour fucking movie. That's what you watched? That happens, like, 20 minutes in. And you sat there, that was all you were thinking about? And, like, I almost, like, wanted to, like, kill my friend. Like, of just, like, Jesus Christ, really? Like, and there's a lot of that these days, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And studios are more than willing to appeal to the lowest common denominator on that stuff. I don't like saying audiences are dumb, but I think algorithms have trained us to give into our dumbness, I guess.
I would agree with that, because I think audiences are a lot smarter than they're given credit for.
Yeah.
But again, I also do agree
it's
that,
just,
like,
I guess what I'm saying is the voice that is going to get elevated is the person complaining about the car chase on the moon, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is not the person coming out of there being like, wanting to talk about whatever the nature of evil is, right? Or
Yeah. Well,
Like,
that was a big response I had to this, where it was like, I'm totally fine people not liking this movie, because it is so fucking strange that this is a mainstream release, the final chapter in a trilogy of films.
Does
It
Michael
is
Myers show
very
up, like...
strange.
Michael Myers shows up like 20 minutes into this thing.
Like 20 to 30 minutes before he
Yeah,
shows up.
it's a while, and then he disappears again for like another 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, and then he just
Like-
makes sporadic appearances until the finale where he's big again. But, like, you know, the point I wanted to make was that people were saying, like, oh, yeah, I really love this cameo in Halloween Ends. I'm like, that's funny, but, like, you know, it wasn't an accident. And people were like, oh, it sucks that he was barely in it. You know, like, what were they thinking? It's like, well, it was clearly intentional. What, like, let's wrestle with that. Let's talk about that. Why do you think that was?
Yeah.
But no one, at least in, like, the public sphere, is really promoting a conversation like that. They're just like, man, they fucked it up again.
That's the other thing I talk about, where people, there's a weird online culture is, like, I blame The Room for this, where people like, oh, The Room, it's so funny, it's so silly. People now think that, like, anything sincere or, like, deliberately goofy is, like, an accident, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they don't understand that, like, a director makes choices, and sometimes they're deliberately trying to be arch or trying to be melodramatic, you know?
Yeah.
And not everyone is going for realism, and that realism definitely shouldn't be a benchmark. And again, it was crazy when, like, I saw when The Northman came out, and people, like, there was a huge group of people that, like, really responded to it, and a lot of them were talking up the realism of The Northman. And I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? Like, did you watch the movie? Like, but that was, I don't know. It's that thing of, like, people think realism is something that, like all artists are striving for realism, which is just completely wrong.
Yeah.
It's not just mostly wrong. It's completely wrong. Because even artists that strive for realism never achieve it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you can listen to Herzog talk all fucking day about how his documentaries aren't even real. Like, so, the fuck you trying to do, you idiots?
Yeah, speaking of lack of realism, the moment I knew I was loving this movie and was going to continue to love it is when Michael Myers grabs the new character Corey Cunningham by the throat.
And looks into his eye.
And then they do the fucking De Palma match cut, and the camera starts spinning, and then he, like, projects the last two Halloween movies into Corey's brain. I know that's not literally what's happening, but that's what it looks like.
Is that what happened, or did he... I thought Corey's memories went into Michael Myers.
No, I'm pretty sure it was Michael's into
I could have
Corey's.
sworn we saw that kid get yeeted off that stairs again. Like,
maybe it was... I guess I have to rewatch this. I wasn't planning on rewatching it anytime soon, as much as I enjoyed it.
see, look, here's something, though. I
damn.
feel like this is, again, where I think David Gordon Green kind of overplays his hand, where as much as, like, that's a fun thing, maybe it's both. If we're lucky, it's both. I hope neither of us are right. Because I think it's a cooler idea to just sit here and be like, they locked eyes. We don't get that montage. And then we would be here debating, so did Michael Myers get something from him, or did he get something from Michael Myers? You know? Like, that would be a more fun kind of debate, and one that the movie doesn't necessarily have to answer. And I feel like there's a bit of an effort to answer it here.
Yeah. It for me, I'm more comfortable. I don't think it overextends too much. And I think a big part of that is that David Gordon Green's filmmaking feels alive here in a way that it didn't for Kills. Where, like, after that shot...
I will disagree. I think his filmmaking is very alive in Kills. I think the writing of Kills is the problem. Because he's going crazy. He's doing some crazy shit in Kills. It's like POV shots of the fucking firemen as they're getting fucked up.
Oh, yeah, no, that part's great. That's my favorite part of the movie.
There's a lot of good stuff in Kills, I'll be honest. It's the writing, again, because, like, the guy jumping off the roof there is, like, a big, like, that just doesn't land at all.
No, it totally lands. Haha.
No, what lands better here is that fucking kid 5 minutes in. You want to talk about the moment I thought I was going to like this movie? That fucking, like, I did not see that coming for the opening of this fucking movie. So, yeah, that was... that kid, you know what? That kid deserved it. Fuck that kid.
Oh my, no. No.
That's why you don't play pranks, kids. Oh, that was the other movie I was thinking of. Penn and Teller Get Killed.
Oh my god.
That's what this movie reminded me of. Which is a movie about how if you play pranks on your friends, it will kill everyone.
Well, you know, the Halloween 3 font makes an appearance in the film. It's the
Yes.
same font. And so like right there, I was like, oh, we're doing something like real different. Like people are not talking up the weirdness just to be like, just because they haven't seen a lot of movies. Like it's genuinely going to be strange, and it was. I was a little. Oh, I like the opening. I like the opening pumpkin stuff for all these new movies.
Yeah, the pumpkins are cool.
But yeah, I like the pumpkin like opening and showing a new pumpkin, and it's like evolving. It's the nature of evil evolving. I was like, oh, that's great, because the last one you had all the different pumpkins lighting on fire, and I was like, oh, that works for that movie. I wish the movie worked as well as those credits.
Yeah.
And it was just, I don't know, it was really exciting to realize I didn't know what the fuck was gonna happen in a franchise movie.
Another movie this reminded me of, I gotta be honest, was The Munsters. Because 20 minutes into The Munsters, I was like, I can't believe this is what this movie is. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And 20 minutes into this, it's like a drama, you know?
Yeah.
Like, nothing horrific is happening. And I'm like, I can't believe this is what this movie is. Like... And like part of it does feel like David Gordon Green maybe trying to like overcorrect a little bit from Kills, but because I also feel like the first 5 minutes of this one, they accomplished what Kills was going for in the first 5 minutes and like a lot better. But yeah, also there's like there's a really good idea in here too of, remember when the father of the kid who died is like, you know, I saw him walking. I saw Cunningham walking around, Corey, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to tell him, like, I don't think you're a bad kid. I understand it was an accident. But I pulled over and then I looked in his eyes and I realized something was wrong, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like that would have played better without that monologue over it, you know? Mm-hmm. Wouldn't this movie have played better if, like, most of these people didn't talk as much as they did?
You know what? I think there I could use it, though, because we don't get the perspective of the parents that much there.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that we should have gotten their perspective a little more.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying, is that, like, there should have been a scene. And I guess it's so weird, because David Gordon Green clearly loves John Carpenter, right? To the point that he has now remade 2 John Carpenter movies. And, but Carpenter was such a master of saying a lot with a little, you know? It's why we can keep talking about Carpenter these days. Whereas, I don't know, Green feels the need to underline his stuff a little more. Then I'm like, no, dude, you should just let the movie play out and then let this movie be discovered by idiots like us, you know? Like, where we're going to come back and be like, you know, that movie's actually a really interesting deconstruction of the nature of evil, right? Like that would be how we talk about it, but instead this movie is like, evil in all its forms comes to you. Like, there's like so many scenes of just people, and I'm just like, don't do it. And I weird thing is, like, I like this movie. Like, I'll be honest, I do enjoy it. I think I just like it on the same level I like Kills, though, which is where, you know, which is both an insult to this movie, but also a compliment to Kills, which I like more than most people. But again, Kills is another one where it's like, cut so much of this dialogue. Like, it really doesn't need to be here. Mm-hmm. And I just, you know, people, we talk about people coming to Carpenter films being like, Carpenter doesn't really have a point of view, right? Yeah. Which is just like bafflingly wrong, you know? But what Carpenter is a master of, I always say, like, Carpenter movies are thinkers for people that show up and want to think, you know?
Yeah.
But, like, if you sit down and you just go, like, I want to turn my brain off and watch a John Carpenter movie, the movie is still going to work. That's kind of his brilliance, is that you could totally just watch the movie on the surface level and it would still work, right? Mm-hmm. And then later you're kind of like, you know what, there's actually some interesting stuff going on here. And that's what the Gordon Green films across the board never achieve. And I say this, I like the movie, but I just, if there's something that annoys me about him, it's that. Mm-hmm. And
I think 2018 does more of what you're describing. I think it does it the most successfully.
But even that underlines it way more than it needs to.
A little bit, yeah. The sequel's not at all. I was talking up this movie because people asked me, like, did you see it? What'd you think? that I would recommend it to people. Know what you're getting into, though. It is not like go into it expecting like a drama.
Yeah.
Like that's what you kind of have to do.
Yeah, just don't go in. Just go in open-minded. I think you'll like it, honestly. But my whole thing is that there's also a narrative problem. We talked about how all the Halloween sequels are kind of shot in the kneecaps by the fact that they have to be about the Strode family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that kind of fucks up every Halloween film post Halloween 2, you know?
Yeah.
And it's something where, like, you know, those movies are enjoyable. We like some of them, but, like, that's a hurdle they struggle to get over. Well, these new ones have this weirder other problem where, you know, it's Jamie Lee Curtis is back, and she wants to kind of reclaim Laurie Strode again, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think this is her second attempt. This time, though, Laurie Strode, that is not the sister of Michael Myers, that they do not have this connection anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now the narrative problem is how do we make these two worlds collide, you know? That's where Halloween 2018 is kind of the most sweatiest, you know?
Yeah.
Like that, like to make the showdown happen at Jamie Lee Curtis's house is kind of like the biggest hurdle that movie has to make. Kills smartly decides to just kind of put Jamie Lee Curtis in a hospital for most of it, which I know like upset people, but it's also like it makes more sense when you think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she doesn't have anything to do there. Like that's all she can do.
Yeah.
Which is a criticism and also me understanding the film.
Yeah, exactly. And then Ends is this baffling thing where, like, it works, I think, the best of three in terms of how she figures into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it also only gets there by going in the wildest direction possible. With the Cunningham character.
Yeah. Should we talk about him?
Absolutely. This is what the movie's about.
He's the main character.
He's the main character.
That is so fucking... I was like losing my... It felt like my brain was leaking out of my ears. It was so awesome. Mm-hmm. Like, maybe awesome's the wrong word. But like...
You know what was honestly...
It was just so surprising.
You know what was honestly really thrilling about this movie? I can't think of the last time I paid to see a studio release film that I know 5 years from now will be blamed for a school shooting. That's 100% what's going to happen here.
What? I can't believe you just said that.
Am I wrong?
I don't know.
Who do you think this
Maybe
character?
Not, I don't know if you should say it.
Look, we are emotionally smart adults. We say on a podcast where we talked about the Halloween films for 4 years, but we are. Who is going to be attracted to the Corey Cunningham character?
Weirdos.
I mean, like a lot of people. You know, there are fine. There are gonna be. You know, there are women out there who are into Michael Myers. I'll just let you know that.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of them. So this one kind of turns Michael Myers into a sad boy.
Oh my God, you're right.
So it's going to appeal to that group too, which honestly I kind of love that. I love the idea that there's going to be a group of people that are going to be like, oh, but Michael Myers is just a sad little boy now. Like, but also it's going to appeal to people that be like, that are just like not the best. I'm sorry. When you read about like how like, you know, fucking certain people out there who there are movies and books about school shootings that very much come down on the side of school shootings are bad and shouldn't happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this movie, I'm not saying it does not do anything to say that what Corey is doing is good. I'm not putting this blame on the film, but that type of work, no matter how overt you are with it, is going to appeal to those type of people, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just warning you that this is going to be a debate in like 5 years.
Okay. I can see that.
They're going to be like, he was always quiet and he watched Halloween Ends about 50 times a day. Like, and it's like, that's where we're heading towards. But hey, if you ever wanted to fuck Michael Myers, this is your movie.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry. Am I wrong?
I want to say yes, but I know in my heart that you're not.
I mean, it's a very romantic film that also has overt sexual imagery in it.
Yeah.
Including the giant phallus he's attracted to that gives him hope over the radio station that then he burns down when he goes full incel. I mean, when he goes full Michael Myers.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the thing, right? Like about the character. I think some people... I mean, the read is there that the town made him worse, but there was like something just off enough about him, you know.
Well, it's again, it's the movie is very much like the town made this happen. Like, no matter how we slice it, that's what the movie is saying.
Yes, which I think is a fine like approach to it.
Yeah,
I have no problems with.
It's honestly a better discussion of true crime without being about true crime. You know. Like, that's what that was some of the stuff I really liked about it. That, it's like if he had been treated with a certain kindness and forgiveness, that maybe this wouldn't have happened. I'm not saying that's how it plays out in life, but that's what the movie is kind of arguing for. But there would be, again, without the overt dialogue, I think it would be more interesting to have a sort of ambiguity about, like, how much was in him and how much was the town and how much was Michael Myers,
Yeah.
Like, which the movie kind of doesn't really want to do, It kind of just goes like, in conclusion, evil is a land of contrasts. Like, like that's kind of where the movie ends. It literally ends with Jamie Lee Curtis doing a book report.
Oh, yeah. I think my least favorite part of the film is the voiceover.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
At least they found an in-universe justification this time.
Yeah, when it first started, I was like, oh no. And then they reveal that it's her typing away a memoir. And I was like, okay.
There's a nugget of a good idea that they never capitalize on, where she kind of the narration ends and then she goes back and corrects one of the sentences, Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, you could do something with that, and then it never comes up again. So...
Yeah. It was nice in that moment, though.
It was.
I know.
I feel like if the narration had maybe just been that scene, I would have been fine with it a lot more.
Yeah, and then it comes back at the end, and where you don't need it. I think the end was perfectly fine without it, and I actually quite liked the ending a lot, and I had no idea where it was going. I knew Michael and Laurie were going to fight again because that would have been an utterly insane decision if they didn't even meet again for this movie. So I was like, that's where this is headed. I don't know how, but I know nothing else what's happening there.
I think through the Cunningham thing, I think made it work. Like
yeah.
And it was great watching The Shape get in a fight with Jamie Lee Curtis' stunt double. I can't even. I mean, how old is Jamie Lee Curtis? Like, I'm not even gonna be. I'm not.
She's up there.
She's up there. Like, I can't expect her to get in a real fight with Michael Myers.
Yeah, she was born in 1958. She's up there.
She's up there. So, but she does a great job, and it's great seeing her kind of be so protective of this character over the years, and being willing to come back and kind of do all this stuff.
Yeah, and I think she gives a great performance here, and she gets to play like aspects of Laurie that she's never gotten to play in any of the movies.
A different degree, like, which is also, it can feel a little jarring considering where she was a film previously, but it's nice to see her at kind of a different speed.
If someone said like that's where we're starting this movie at, and they have trouble getting on board. I can understand, because the last two movies, she's fucking Sarah Connor and shit.
Yeah.
And, like, she's going for blood, And it is a little jarring. It took me a second. I was like, whoa, okay, hold on. We're going here. All right, let me
how about
recalibrate my brain.
That this movie has an overt reference to The Legend of Sleepy Hollow in it.
Well, it makes sense. Oh, here's another thing. This actually kind of ties into your Sleepy Hollow thing too right now. So I saw David Gordon Green's George Washington for the first time recently.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's a great movie.
Yeah. It's weird to think that this guy will go on to make the Halloween films, but also Pineapple Express and Your Highness.
Yeah. I have less of an understanding of how that director made Pineapple Express and Your Highness. It makes complete sense that these are the Halloween films that guy made. These could only have been made by that director.
Isn't that kind of the story with him, though? That, like, Jason Blum is one of those guys that has, like, a meeting with everyone in Hollywood one day. And just be like, look, if you want to make a horror movie for me, you can do it. And the guys would be like, I don't know, I don't have an idea. And David Gordon was like, I don't really want to do any franchise films, like, I'm fine. And then one day, Blum just said, like, just sent him an email that just said Halloween.
I don't know about that, but that makes a lot of sense.
I think that's what happened. I remember that being the story. And David Gordon was like, okay.
But like his values and interest in communities and like people lost within them, like it makes perfect sense for this film. I totally see that filmmaker and his interests in Halloween Ends still. Yeah. Like I think some people that like really hate this are calling it like an astronomical disaster that doesn't make any sense. I think it makes sense. It's just fucking strange. You know,
yeah.
It's similar concepts that stem from this artist's like ideas and like interests, but in a very strange setting. Like I think I brought it up earlier. The part I really started to latch onto the movie was the eye-to-eye contact with Corey and Michael. And then there's that shot of Corey like kind of trying to balance himself in the tunnel, and it's like in silhouette.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, we're like going to a very strange place. This is not going to be normal.
There's a lot of good visual ideas in this movie.
Yeah.
There's the good one when he goes to take the mask from Michael at one point and they get in that struggle. Mm-hmm. And it's like, again, like you can't tell who's who in the fight. And it's a lockdown shot where they keep kind of going in and on and off camera, you know?
Yeah.
In and out of the frame. And it's kind of like, oh, they're blending together, you see? Mm-hmm. You see what you did there? Which, again, it's like, that stuff's really great. And then, like, sometimes there'll be dialogue that kind of goes like, see, they're similar. And it's like, okay. I could have done without that. But, hey.
Okay, I have one more question, I think. Andy Matichak, who plays Allison, the granddaughter character. Mm-hmm. Is she underwritten in this film, or do you track with it?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, here's the thing. It is an incredibly weird, like, the drive to get those two together is a little odd. I gotta be honest.
It's a little unbalanced, for sure.
But it's also because, again, like, Kills has done this weird thing to the other two, where they kind of don't factor into it as much, you know? Mm-hmm. She goes on a revenge thing in Kills, right? Like,
yeah.
She's like, and now in this one, she's like, I'm gonna fuck Michael Myers, like, which is not what she says, obviously, but like that's kind of what's happening here. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I guess that's what's happening.
Yeah, it's one thing that works more conceptually than like in execution. I don't fully know, but I buy into it because the movie wins me over, right? If the movie doesn't have you, like, from the beginning, you're kind of never going to find it. And that's total, I get it, you know? But as a character who's, like, she has tried to move on, it makes sense to me that she would try to find comfort in another lost soul, in a way.
In the saddest motherfucker on the planet.
Yeah.
I'm just like, wow, you look kind of odd. You work for your father. You live at home. You've experienced the trauma in your life that you will never get over. Wow, how attractive!
Yeah, that's the thing. It's I don't get why she starts pursuing him, I guess.
And this, I will say this isn't like a gendered thing. There are people who like that kind of the like fix them fantasy, you know? Mm-hmm. It's not a men-women thing. Like, there are people that kind of are, I'm not saying they like it in real life. Like, there's a whole other discussion about like what people like as like a fantasy as opposed to what they actually like, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why people like kind of like the monster boyfriend type stories, you know?
Yeah. Which is maybe the intention of this film, too, because he allows her to stay in Haddonfield, even though he then wants to leave Haddonfield with her. So maybe my idea doesn't track. Never mind. I don't know. It's kind of messy. It's a little messy, to be clear.
I will say the stuff that felt a little bit rushed is the Laurie Allison relationship. You know, like the grandmother granddaughter thing.
The conflict.
Like
you mean?
Yeah, when that starts coming to a head, that felt a little more rushed.
Yeah, that feels even more off balance to me. I can live with the Corey stuff. That one I was like, don't lose this thread. Don't fuck it up.
Again, it's so weird where it's like I almost would be fine with it if the rest of the movie was kind of as like this is just the tempo of the movie, you know? Mm-hmm. But this is an almost 2-hour movie. Yeah. So like maybe you could have found more room in there.
And here's something. I've heard criticism about the pacing and like the way the story plays out. I didn't pay to see this in theaters. I saw it on Peacock because I did not like Halloween Kills, and I was like, I don't want to go through that again, really.
So you're a coward.
I will totally take friends to go watch this if anyone else is interested, but I want to see their reactions to this fucking insane shit I fell in love with. But I paused the movie halfway to go to the bathroom, make food, because I was like, I'm fucking hungry. I had a long week. I want to eat while I'm watching this. And I was halfway through, and I was like, I didn't feel that at all. Like, I could see where the movie was, like, in its story. I feel the pace of the story moving along. But I didn't realize I was already there, and I was like, oh, we haven't gotten to, like, the slasher part of the slasher movie yet. And I was okay with it. But it definitely did throw me for a loop, and I was like, oh, wow, this is... Like, it's just so weird. It's so weird. Which made me really happy. I don't get weird like this anymore.
I'm ultimately just amazed this got released by a studio. Now it kind of didn't because they did put it on Peacock. Like they did kind of were like, we don't believe in this.
Here,
you know?
But here's the thing. The box office like track of this trilogy, like it makes sense. Other movie trilogies don't, like, unless you're like Marvel for some reason, they just keep making more and more money. Like. Other franchises, specifically trilogies, they always make less money as they go along, you know, unless there's like Spider-Man 3 is like the one that made the most, which was like crazy.
Less money isn't no money though.
No, it's yeah. And I just wanted to say, like, some people were criticizing like the decision for day and date with this, and like, oh, Peacock stopped it from making like $80 million or whatever. It's tracking for like 45 or whatever, and that like Halloween Kills only made like 55 opening or whatever.
45 total or 45 opening weekend.
Opening weekend.
I mean, that's fine. Like, everyone's gonna be happy at the end of the day.
Not to care about box office bullshit. I'm just saying in terms of like audience reception. I'm googling Halloween Ends, and the audience rating summary according to Google is 1.9 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, people are not happy with it.
That is so awesome. Oh my god.
A little depressing, but it's a good movie.
Yeah.
Which is like kind of like that's I guess that's what I will say is that it is a good movie. I will always have I'm gonna have like a couple little hang-ups with it, right? But I'm very impressed that this is the way they decided to end the David Gordon Green trilogy. Now, Michael Myers gets thrown into a shredder at the end of the movie.
I laughed.
And you bet I laughed the moment it was like the town congregated to do this. Like, that was kind of amazing at like how wordless it was. Again, there's even too much dialogue there for my taste, but I kind of like the parts where it's just like everyone's just showing up for this. But yeah, but you know he's gonna come back, especially when this one made like a very overt, like when he's helping Michael kill the cop, right? Her Alice's ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
Who looks like he's about a decade older than her, but hey.
You know what? Hey, maybe that's part of the reason why she goes for Corey. She's got... Being in Haddonfield's made her have a bad taste in men. That's the read the movie gives you.
They say that's basically what happened with Jamie Lee Curtis, you know? That's what Laurie was up to between the other ones.
Well, there you go.
And Officer Mulaney, by the way. In a movie where like everything feels very pointed, I have
hilarious.
I have some thoughts there, but let's not unpack them.
No. Let's move on.
Who played the doctor that gets killed? That's a weird thing that kind of happens in the middle of this.
That was, yeah. I mean, all of this is fucking bizarre. Let me see.
Michael O'Leary is Dr. Mathis.
Have I seen him before?
It doesn't look like he's
been in like
much.
3 movies.
Yeah.
Whoa.
He looked like a guy where I'm like, I've seen him, but then I'm looking at his movies and I'm like, I haven't seen any of these.
Yeah.
So, he looks like he was in another slasher film called Fatal Games, which might be the reason he's in this.
Oh, yeah. Maybe David Gordon Green's like, oh, Fatal Games, underrated.
Yeah, maybe. You never know.
Yeah. Or at least Danny McBride. Danny McBride apparently requested that he be in this movie to fight Michael Myers.
Oh, really?
Or like he wanted to be someone who goes up against Michael Myers, and that didn't happen. So, yeah, here you go.
About.
David Gordon Green hinted that McBride requested a cameo, potentially as a character who fights Michael Myers. That didn't happen. Apologies to Danny McBride. Maybe The Exorcist.
Maybe
he'll fight Pazuzu.
Is he co-writing the Exorcist ones too?
I believe so. Let me check. Because here's the thing. After Halloween Kills, he gets the Exorcist trilogy, and I'm like, Jesus Christ!
They announced it
right. No.
They announced it like right before too, and then like Kills came out, was like so divisive that people were like, I don't know about this, buddy.
Okay, so Danny McBride's worked on the story. The screenplay will be written by David Gordon Green and someone named Peter Sattler.
Okay.
So it looks like they're still working together. I guess he's still producing it and stuff like that. Because him and David Gordon Green do like a lot together. They're like they're like the boys,
They're buddies.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah. I will say this got me more interested in his Exorcist because I was like, okay, if you're gonna go this fucking weird, so long as you can do that, like
whatever, they need to bring in one more writer. And the job of that writer is to not write a single word. And instead go through and be like, you don't need this line. You don't need this line. You don't need this line. You don't need this line.
Hey, that is writing.
Yeah.
It's knowing when not to write.
100%. That's true. I think there's the good, what's his name? Pervert director guy.
Unfortunately, that doesn't narrow it down. I almost spit out my coffee. Holy shit.
Not a canceled pervert.
Brian De Palma?
No. Paul Schrader.
He's gotten close.
Not yet. I guess I should have said not yet.
Yeah. Get him off Facebook, but continue.
Yes. But he had a good quote where he was talking about the editing process. He was talking about editing more, where he's like, the first edit, like I go, let's just put the good stuff in and see how much good stuff we actually have. And I feel like you could do that with the script too.
Yeah.
Just when you're reading the script, look at it and first go, okay, let's do a version that's just the good stuff, and then kind of patch that together with what's needed,
Yeah.
And because that's my main hang up with these movies is, again, like 50% of the dialogue I feel like you could get rid of. But also, if you were a Raylo shipper, I think you might get something out of this movie.
Yeah, I could see that.
This actually, fuck it. This is Rise of Skywalker now.
I thought we already determined season 3 of Avatar: The Last Airbender was.
Yeah, we could have done that, but like now this is here, so let's do that.
This is significantly better than The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, but what isn't? The Bush administration?
Oh, God. I guess. John Carpenter was asked in an interview with MovieMaker.com, what did you think of Halloween Ends? And he said, it was good. I enjoyed it. It's very different. I enjoyed the risks it took. Jamie Lee Curtis was just extraordinary in it. She was just wonderful. I'm so proud of her. That's very nice. Now, that might just be him being nice because he got paid a lot of money to work on this movie, too.
Yeah. Can you imagine him sitting down to do the score for this?
I have no fucking idea what that even looks like.
Like, that's hysterical.
Yeah. I'm willing to bet that he did like it enough because you mentioned his whole thing about, like, not having... Like letting spaces sit, right? That's the whole ending of the original Halloween. Letting the space sit over Michael's breathing, and it's fucking terrifying. I'm still willing to bet he liked it in spite of the overwriting. Like, I think he is telling the truth. But shout out to John Carpenter, his kid Cody, and Daniel Davies, who did the music for this, because I think the music across all three of these is terrific.
It's one of these things where, like, now I'm like, why isn't Carpenter, like, being announced to just score, like, a dozen movies going forward?
Yeah, I have no fucking idea.
Bring him in on, like, anything. I'd see it. Like...
Yeah, I don't know. And
also, give him a fucking honorary Oscar already, goddammit. Like,
I know, before, because, like, not to say anything, but, like, he looks a little rough, you know? He's up there.
And also, like, I know he's, like, basically officially retired, but in a recent interview, he's still hinting that he'd want to do a Dead Space movie.
Which is so funny, yeah.
Let him do it. Like, who the fuck? EA? What the fuck are you going to do with the rights to fucking Dead Space?
I know.
You're not doing anything with it.
It's so stupid.
Make a buck. Let Carpenter do it. Just let him make it. Announce it. You go, it's Dead Space, so you got the video game fans. It's John Carpenter, so you got movie fans, and it's a horror movie. Just fucking do it, you morons.
On that note, I have a couple more things, and then I think we're basically done here.
Yeah.
Dana McBride and David Gordon Green called this an intimate coming-of-age story, which I would agree with. They cited the influence of Christine, of course, Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker, and My Bodyguard, which is hysterical to me. But also makes perfect sense. Yeah. John Carpenter, like you said, like, I don't know why people aren't hiring him to do more scores. He said, like, no one's asked him to score a video game. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
I know.
You've got, like, the chief OG gamer over here, and no one's asking him to score fucking Sonic or something?
Yeah.
Like, what? You don't think that's one of the things he'd pour his heart and soul into? And I think the best, like, compliment I can give this movie is that, along with the score, the atmosphere, the ridiculousness of the whole premise, it really got me feeling the Halloween vibe. Like, not the franchise, like the season, the spirit of the season. Yeah. And I did not expect that at this stage. So, yeah, it's worth a watch, even if you end up not liking it, I think.
I stand by 2018, and I think Kills and Ends for me are a similar level of quality. Mm-hmm. Oddly enough, though, I think they have the complete opposite strengths in a lot of ways. So, but yeah, I liked it. I'm glad it's over, though. I'm glad that David Gordon Green is now going to, like, step away. I hope that whatever they decide to do next with Halloween, they get someone who understands the camera as well. I think David Gordon Green has a very good understanding of the camera.
Same. The cinematographer also, someone named Michael Simmons. He has no Wikipedia page, so he must be, like, new.
There you go. But get some people and just make something quick and dirty, 90 minutes. And it's just like the evil of Michael Myers is back, and you can do whatever you want. Doesn't even have to be in Haddonfield. Like,
yeah. Just do fucking new I'm sure it will be in Haddonfield, because that's just how these people think. And
just don't over-explain it,
Holy shit, the cinematographer worked on Vice Principals. That makes perfect fucking sense.
There you go.
It's a great show. Halloween Ends. Oh, I also like that Laurie only can defeat Michael with her normal kitchen appliances.
Also, they crucified him.
Oh, yeah. Haha.
And then they literally, like, spread his flesh in front of the crowd. So, like, Michael Myers is a Christ figure.
It's fucking ridiculous. I'm so happy.
Pretty awesome moment when he ripped his hand through the knife, though.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome.
Well, isn't that, like, I think it's pretty, maybe the execution's weird, but, like, I think it's pretty clever. It's like, she couldn't, by living with her trauma and fears, she couldn't defeat him, but, like, when she moved on, that's how she did it. It is very goofy because she throws a refrigerator on him.
Yeah, and then her granddaughter just pops out of nowhere too. That was a little weird.
No, that was very strange. That was, like, the one moment where I was like, oh, this is like a movie. That's right.
Yeah. I was a little worried it was going to end like Annihilation, where it's like she has to, like, learn, like, to live with Michael Myers before she can escape him.
That's what the next Halloween should be. They go into the zone, and then Michael Myers is just this big wall of, like,
It's just the
gelatinous
mask. The
goo.
mask just keeps growing.
Yeah.
Did they destroy the mask? You know what? I didn't pay attention to that.
I don't know.
Oh no, it was on her table at the end.
Oh, okay.
That was the thing, is that it's when Don't Fear the Reaper kicks in, it was sitting on her coffee table. So it's like she's learned to live with it, I guess.
There you go. And Allison leaves Haddonfield because I would also get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, you know what?
Don't stick around.
I will say one thing I think this movie does that's actually kind of smart is that like there is the thing of like, why don't you just leave town? You know, and I think the Strode thing that's a different discussion. But for a character like Corey, where it's like the whole town hates him, right? Because like they think he's a murderer. But it's like they show that he lives in like poverty, basically, with a mother who's like very abusive towards him, and it's like he can't leave town, and that's like the reality of a lot of people, you know.
Yeah.
Like you can't just leave the awful living situation you're in. There's also one thing, if you want to talk about stuff that I think is a little smarter that these movies do, you can tell that Gordon Green and I believe Jamie Lee Curtis is like very vocally anti-gun, you know, and so like they have mixed feelings about how she's turned into a survivalist type character, you know, especially in 2018.
Yeah.
And but both movies, both Halloween 2018 and Kills, both do a thing where it's like if you have a gun, you're more likely to just shoot someone else than actually stop someone. It happens in both movies, which is never, and it's never underlined, you know. There's never like oh, you know, when a gun is more, like they don't say it overtly. I just like that that's an element in. I think all three of them have a moment like that. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, I mean, because like Kills, I know a lot of people like I don't like the movie, but like people are dunking on it, like, oh, that nurse or the doctor shot herself, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense to me. That totally makes sense to me.
It's almost like statistically, if you own a gun, you're more likely to shoot yourself than anyone else. Like that's just what happens. It's that's just a known fact.
Yeah.
And I like that that's a thing, and it's not something that Gordon Green has ever like. They didn't make it like a big deal, you know.
Yeah.
Like there's not a point where like Jamie Lee Curtis like breaks a gun in half or something. And it's like, no more bullets, like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, but it also feels like David Gordon Green saw people saying, like, why don't you just nuke Haddonfield or throw Michael into a shredder? And he was like, you know what? That's exactly what we'll do, just to make sure. Halloween ends. It's over
destined,
now.
It's destined to be celebrated in the way Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is.
Yes.
It's 100% guaranteed for that legacy. And I hope to see both. I don't know either of their names, but the actors who played Allison and the actor who played Corey. I hope to see them in more stuff.
Yeah, Andy Matichak plays Allison, and Rowan Campbell plays Corey. Both very good actors, and I think commit to again the most ridiculous shit. And
yes.
I think that's why I really love the movie. It fucking commits.
Yep.
And it's fascinating because of it.
Also, great seeing Will Patton again.
Oh yeah, I do like that he just has little bits in this. He's done with the whole, like he only shows up with the police at the end because he heard about Jamie Lee Curtis' fake suicide thing. That was a cool moment.
All right, here's something though that confuses me a little bit. Just the plot, it really doesn't matter though. But so she does the whole suicide fake out scene, right?
Yeah.
Where she's like, she calls the cops. I want to report a suicide. Bam! She shoots the pumpkin in homage to Sleepy Hollow. And then like her daughter gets the call being like, "Hey, we got a weird phone call about your mom committing suicide. We can't find her. Where is she?" What was that? Like what? Did she give a different address? Was that what happened?
Oh, maybe. Yeah,
because she gives an address, and I'm assuming the cops maybe went there and then realized it was her later. But that was a weird. Like I was like, why didn't the cops show up sooner? Like that's like such a CinemaSins complaint. But it was a like, what?
No, that's strange. Yeah, I don't because you're not saying it's a negative, but it's like it's just weird. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe she did do that, but knowing that Will Patton's part of he's in with the cops, that it's like that's her backup because this is Movie Land and not Real World.
Maybe
that
she
works.
gave his address because how else would they get in contact with him that quickly?
Oh, good point.
I hope no one bothers to explain this, because it really doesn't need to be. It's just something I thought about while watching it.
Okay, yeah.
Because again, they have to kind of get these characters in the same spot at a certain point.
Yeah.
But also not as many comedy actor characters in this.
No, apologies to Danny McBride.
Yeah, well, because the other two are stacked with comedians and like bit parts. So this one was a little like, no, we're gonna be a little more serious about this one. But how about that kid getting thrown off the stairs?
So fucking funny. That got me. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
The
good
flop.
Stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, Halloween Ends. Go watch it. Get angry or get excited. It doesn't matter. I liked it a lot. Matt, thanks for joining me on another episode of the Halloween Retrospective. I can't believe there's fucking 12 of these.
I know, and there will be 13 eventually.
Yeah.
Because true evil never dies.
Oh.
That's why the Wheel of the Worst was created. It's a torture device for the modern age.
Matt, where can the people find you?
I'm at EmperorTN1 at Twitter.com.
And you can find me at the Diego Crespo on Twitter. Check out the Waffle Press on Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, and Patreon. And get early access to nothing right now because we're in the spooky season, so we're just getting other stuff out there. I think we talked about it. We're doing Jordan Peele for Halloween.
We're gonna do all 3 Jordan Peele movies at once.
Yeah. So it'll be 10 hours of podcasting.
Something's got to beat the JFK episode.
Oh, I'm so tired, but it's gonna be worth it. Yeah, there's other stuff going on. Gene's gonna report back from Beyond Fest with some other friends, and yeah, we got other interviews, other stuff coming out. So. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. If you didn't like this, like and subscribe anyways because you might find something you do like. Happy Halloween. I can't believe Halloween ended on October 15th. Okay, goodbye.
Goodbye, Judy Foster. Goodbye.
Maybe the only way he can die is if I die too. It all ends now. You came here to kill me, so do it.